What if I told you there's a forest that breathes, a fish that flies, and an elephant that paints better than some humans? These aren't scenes from a fantasy movie. These are real events caught on camera. From a horse that attacks an alligator, to a cheetah that acts like a family pet. These 10 moments are so unbelievable, they blur the line between fact and fiction. Before we dive into the madness, here's a challenge for you. Help us hit 1 million subscribers this year by smashing that subscribe button. It's free, and you won't believe what's coming next.
Flying fish. With specialized gills to extract oxygen from liquid, the one thing you can assume about a fish is that it lives underwater, right? Well, it might surprise you to know that this isn't always the case, as there are actually at least 40 different species of flying fish. Typically living in warmer waters and rarely growing any longer than 18 inches, they are often seen leaping from the waves at incredible speeds. To do this, they have enlarged fins that allow them to glide through the air. And some, such as the California flying fish, essentially have forewings that give them unbelievable hang time. There are a few reasons why they've developed this ability. The first is that it's a great evasive technique to escape predators that aren't so nimble. But it's also because they can catch flies from above the surface of the water that, for some species, are their main source of food. Sometimes this can lead to comical events when sailing boats are passing over a region where there's a large shoal of flying fish, because if the creatures get spooked, they'll all start jumping out of the water and start landing on the deck of the boat. They soon start to smell awful, so it's a race against time to get them back into the water before this happens. Forest floor caught breathtaking. This video shows one of the most bizarre phenomena anywhere in the world. And if we were to tell you about it without any footage, there's no way you'd ever believe it was real. Filmed in a forest in Quebec, you can actually see the forest floor rising and lowering, almost as if it were breathing. Take a moment to watch it. What do you think is really happening here? Unfortunately, this isn't proof that the forest is one large living organism, but is actually happening because of the weather conditions. The soil here is very loosely packed, and because the wind is blowing so hard against the trees, they're slightly swaying back and forth. Just a small movement of the trunk on the surface can result in large shifts in their massive root structures. And when there are enough moving in tandem, the floor itself begins to move. You won't see this everywhere there's a forest, because usually the ground is so densely packed that the roots can't move, and the trees stand firmly in position. If you're ever lucky enough to see it in real life, it's one of the strangest things you'll ever witness. Bear saves crow from drowning. If you've ever watched a bear, you'll know how one-track-minded they always seem to be. For them, it's all about finding food, and when they have it, there's not much that would be able to prize them away.
Don't try and run for it. You'll never outrun it.
That's what makes this next video all the more surprising, because the bear in it is happily tucked into his meal. Filmed at the Budapest Zoo, a crow that has flown into his enclosure has found itself in quite the predicament and has begun to drown in the pool of water. Instead of carrying on regardless, the bear called Valley puts down his food and goes to investigate how he can help the crow. When the crow finally makes it to the corner, Valley is able to put his paw down, catch it against the wall, and pick it up in his mouth to bring it back to safety. The poor crow probably thought its time was up, either due to drowning or because it was about to become bear food. But luckily for it, Valley was far more interested in finishing his apple. An elephant paints a self-portrait with his trunk. Elephants are some of the most intelligent creatures in the animal kingdom, and you're probably aware of how much control they have of their trunks that contain more than 40,000 muscles. So it only makes sense that some have managed to learn how to use their pursuits. Like this one, at a sanctuary in Asia. He has been trained by staff to replicate brushstrokes and painting techniques.
They can pass the pictures by dead tribes.
and is actually able to paint a self-portrait while guests to the facility are watching. There are no camera tricks going on here. What you see is happening for real, even to the bemusement of people who are there in person. There are several elephants that are able to produce a range of different paintings, and this has become an important revenue stream for the sanctuary. They sell the images to tourists for $500 each, and all the money goes towards helping take care of the artists. It's particularly impressive because the quality of work is far better than many humans can achieve. Do you think you're a better artist than an elephant? Beluga whale filmed playing fetch with Rugby World Cup ball, and it seems that even the animal kingdom joined in with their celebrations. On a trip to the Arctic Circle, a group of South African supporters were on a boat when a beluga whale swam up towards them. They did what anyone would do who just so happened to have a rugby ball with them. They threw it into the water. While they probably hoped the whale was going to play with it, they couldn't have expected what was about to happen next.
That's crazy, yeah.
The excitable whale swims ahead to pick the ball up in its mouth, dives underwater with it, and then brings it back to the people on the boat so they can throw it again. Can you believe that one of these majestic creatures so easily got into a game of fetch with them? And do you think there are any other animals that would have done the same thing? Moving very big house by a car. Moving house can be one of the most costly and stressful things that we ever do. It takes ages to pack up all of your belongings, carry them to your new place, and put everything in the right room. But imagine how much more complicated things were if your house move actually involved moving your entire house. It's far more complicated than you might think, whether because people can't bear the idea of leaving their family home but want different surroundings, or for those who aren't able to leave the structure on a plot of land. It's a very complicated process though, as this clip from George Washington Lane shows. First, struts have to be put underneath the house, and then it's lifted from its foundations onto a flatbed truck. It's then very carefully driven at slow speed along a street, and requires teams to go ahead to ensure no other large vehicles try to pass in the other direction. It's such a bizarre sight that people often line the streets to see it for themselves, but it would surely suck if you were the driver who was caught behind this as it was happening. Amazing elephant basketball dunks. It can be tough, especially if you're isolated, to practice sports without other players to test your skills against. But Renee Cassidy, a star of Ninja Warrior and a professional acrobat, found a way to challenge himself with the assistance of an elephant. This isn't as bizarre as it first seems, because he has apparently been around the creatures all of his life after growing up with them. But still, the things he's able to train them to do on the basketball court are incredible.
Lead is 5. Tip an alley-oop to Jordan.
He performs a number of dunks with their assistance, which would surely put every other attempt at an NBA dunk contest to shame. Cassidy himself admits, however, that they can't exactly perform these stunt shots perfectly under pressure, and that for each one, there were plenty of wipeouts before they were completed successfully. With the way they work together, though, it seems as if elephants are the perfect dunk companions. But if you were going to set up a trick shot with the aid of an animal, which species would you choose? Monkey play piano. Our closest relatives in the animal kingdom are equally as inquisitive as we are, and when given the chance to experiment with new and unusual things, they'll fully commit. This clip shows what happened when a pet chimp was placed in front of the piano, and it didn't take long before he performed a sublime piece. Okay, well, it isn't exactly a classic, but he definitely shows a sense of rhythm and enjoyment and the sounds that he's making. A few more hours of this, and perhaps some structured lessons in the future, and who knows, this chimp could be performing on some of the grandest stages in the world in no time at all. Would you ever go to watch a performance by a chimp, or any other animal for that matter? Surely it's got to be more interesting than some concerts, and might even attract a whole new audience to the genre. Force attacks alligator. Alligators are some of the fiercest creatures on the planet. With rows of sharp teeth and one of the strongest bites, most animals, including humans, know that it's best to stay as far away from them as possible. Sometimes this is easier said than done, however, and this video shows that not everything is as afraid of the reptiles as you would expect. Recorded in a state park in Florida, a group of friends saw a group of horses grazing perilously close to an alligator. Suddenly, one of them charges towards the deadly beast and stamps over it several times.
Oh, Jim, get that.
All the alligator can do is hiss back in annoyance, and at one point manages to grab the horse's leg in its mouth. It's unable to cause any damage though, and is forced to retreat in case the horses decide to attack again. It's hard to believe that it was overpowered in this way, and even though it was clearly a juvenile, it just goes to show that even when the odds seem to be stacked against you, there's always a way to prevail. Cheetah is a family friend. Millions of people around the world like to keep cats as pets, and there's plenty of choice with 71 different recognized domesticated breeds to pick from. Some people, however, want to have something a little more unusual and potentially more dangerous around their homes. And while you may argue that's a risk that it's their right to take, what about if they allowed their wild cats to play with their children? This video shows a family where that's precisely what happens, because the two toddlers have become best friends with two young cheetahs called Waku and Skyla. They've never known any different because the cheetahs have always been around. And since the cats have grown up in a home environment, they're relatively tame compared to those in the wild. Still, these are dominant predators in their natural environments, and even when they think they're playing, they can pose a serious threat. The danger might not be so apparent while they're still just cubs, but when they begin to grow into adulthood, surely this living arrangement will have to change.
Reality truly is stranger than fiction. Which moment blew your mind the most? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and of course, subscribe for more mind-bending moments every week. See you in the next one.